bookish friends. I hope you're all well. Welcome back to another video, or welcome if you are new. It's time to do my wrap up for August. I am a little bit sick still, and a little bit tired, but I still wanted to do my wrap up for the month. I've got a stack of books that I managed to read, and then I'm also going to let you know how many I managed to read from my seasonal TBR, my summer TBR. So let's just delve straight in to the books that I read. Right, I've got my little list because we all know I can't do this from memory alone. So I am really pleased. I wanted August to be my best reading month of the year so far. And to me, technically it was. I read a total of 19 books in the month of August, which I'm really pleased with. There was another month that I read 22. I think that might have been March. But 6 of those were like the little short stories, the Amazon collection ones. So even though, yeah, it technically counted as 22, I don't kind of see it as that. So yeah, to me, this was my best reading month of 19 books. Broken down, I managed to read 12 physical books. I did 3 audio books and I did 4 ebooks. So let me lift that up there so I don't have to keep looking down. Ebooks, I'm going to do the ebooks first. So the first one that I managed to read in the month of August, I'm going to pop it up here or here, whichever way, was The Love Interest by Victoria Waters. This was just a cute little palette cleanser. It was part of, it was on Amazon Prime. And this, I don't remember their names at all, but I remember she was a librarian and she was living in London with her brother. She was working at a university and she worked in the library of the university, but she wanted to be a writer. This whole story was kind of brother's best friend. There was some false proximity, and her and the brother's best friend absolutely hated each other. They almost kind of got together when they were younger, but it didn't happen, and there was this big misunderstanding, and they've hated each other for years. But secretly he hasn't hated her. It was kind of like one of those. They belonged together, they should have been together, but neither one of them could communicate properly and make that happen. He moves to London. He's a professor, and he moves to London to start working at the university where she works, and he ends up having to move in with them until he can find his own place. So you've got the false proximity, and then the brother ends up, he has an accident, he goes back to stay with their mum, so they're on their own. And then the story progresses from there. It wasn't too long, and I remember kind of getting through it quite quickly. And it was fun. It was enjoyable. The writing wasn't terrible. It wasn't amazing. And I liked it because it was literally set where I live. So I think that made me enjoy it just that little bit more. But I gave this one 3 stars. The next ebook that I managed was Come Fly With Me by Helen Rolfe. This is the first book in, I think this is like a new series for her. It's called the Skylark series or something like that. It is set in the English countryside somewhere. I can't think exactly where. And we follow our 2 main characters. Both work for the air ambulance, basically. Our female main character is the pilot, which I absolutely loved. And our male main character was actually the paramedic, and he came from London, moved down to the countryside with his little niece that he was given custody of his niece because unfortunately his sister passed away, and there was no one else to look after her. So he is trying to look after his baby niece. He's trying to, settle into this new job. There's so much kind of going on around them. Our female main character, she's got an ex-husband that just won't kind of leave her alone. And the story is just about them kind of navigating this friendship and it then turning into a relationship. And I just love it's kind of like, I want to say like small town, but obviously small town English kind of countryside vibe. And I just love all the little side characters, and I love Helen Rolfe's writing. It's always so easy to digest, and again, it's very like palate cleanser is what I would call it. So I had a good time with this one, and I gave it 3.5 stars. And then the next one that I read was the second book in, I think it's something to do, they're all set in the Lake District basically. It's by Jessica Redland, and this one was called A Breath of Fresh Air. I really enjoyed the first one, which I read at the beginning of the year. This is the second one. This one follows the best friend of the female main character from the first book, and she works in the stables. She's horse mad. There's all this drama, and it was really emotional. It's like, yes, it's a romance, and this one was second chance romance, and yes, I enjoyed that side of it. But what I love about Jessica Redland's writing is it's just more than that, and it's more, there's more of an emotional depth to the story. So I had a really good time with this one as well, and I gave it 4 stars. And the final ebook that I managed to get to in the month of August was this was called Summer at the Ice Cream Cafe by Jo Thomas. I've never read anything by Jo Thomas before. This was my first one of their books, and I really enjoyed it. We followed, again, I cannot tell you her name. We follow our female main character. She buys a house back in Wales where she grew up. Her family were of Italian heritage. They obviously moved to Wales, and they set up their own gelato, they had a cafe, and again, it's kind of like small village. She moved away when she was sort of like in her teenage years. She was a little bit, not necessarily difficult, but I suppose she was a bit of a misunderstood child and teen, and then she ends up swanning off to London, and that's where she's built her own business. She's been married, she's now gotten divorced. She's come back to her hometown. She's bought a house, and her plan is to foster children. And she gets her first 2. It's an emergency case. She wants to foster younger children, and she gets this, it's like an emergency. Can you do it? Yes, lovely. And she gets 2 boys, one who is a teenager and he's like 15, and he's like so grumpy and moody, and and then she gets the other little boy, and I think it's never actually kind of mentioned, but I would definitely say he's on the spectrum somewhere. And it was just so magical to watch her journey with these 2 boys, and they end up helping her kind of, they open their own little pop-up ice cream shop or gelato kind of spot on the beach, because her family cafe has been sold and it's gone. And they find the old recipe book, and the boys both help her with that. And her best friend from when she was a kid, again, this is kind of second chance. They missed their chance when they were teenagers. And as soon as she comes back, he is there. They just pick up their friendship, and it just kind of goes on from there. And again, I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it 4 stars. So that's all the ebooks. And then I managed 3 audiobooks for the month of August. So the first one I listened to was Confessions of the Dead by James Patterson and is it J.D. Barker. So I think this is like the newest, one of the newest Pattersons it's come out quite recently. It was odd. It is the only way I can describe it. I saw a lot of people on Goodreads were describing it as like, it was like they were trying to do Stephen King, but they didn't pull it off. So it was, do you know what? I can't even describe what it was about, but it might have been easier if I'd read it, but in audiobook form, there was multiple characters and all these different POVs, and then there was like different timeline, but it was chaos. It was utter chaos, and there was so much happening, and no one understood why. And then even when you did understand why towards the end, it was still a bit like, huh? So I had to listen to it to the end because I needed to know what happened. But very odd, very strange. Would I recommend it? No. So I gave that one 3 stars. Moving swiftly on, the next audiobook that I managed was Amongst Our Weapons. Now this was book 9. It's the final book in the Rivers of London series by Ben Aronovich and read by Colbner Holbrook Smith. I have loved this series. I haven't given a single book, I've said this before, I haven't given a single book in the series 5 stars. Every book has had either 4 stars or a 4.5. But having said that, overall, I absolutely adored this series. It was fantastic. It was so much fun. So many great characters. And even 9 books in, I was still having a good time. And I think that in itself is a big achievement. So yes, this was the final one. Was I a little bit underwhelmed with how it ended? Yes. But still, I would highly, highly recommend it. And I would highly recommend the audiobooks. And I gave this one 4 stars. And then the final audiobook that I listened to for the month was The Story Collector by Evie Woods. Now, this is the same author that wrote The Lost Bookshop, which was my favourite book from last year. I absolutely loved it. This one, exactly the same. It's got elements of magical realism. It's set in Ireland. Such gorgeous characters, and you've got dual timelines. We've got back in the past, and then we've got the present. And her writing is just beautiful. It's just beautiful, and I don't want to spoil anything or tell you what this story is about, apart from the fact that I'm going to say you have to read it. If you haven't read The Lost Bookshop either, highly recommend that too. This was one of my favourite books of the month, but I did have a lot of fantastic books this month, but this one is definitely top of the list. It's up there, and I gave this one 5 stars. Absolutely adored it. So those are all the ebooks and the audiobooks. Now let's get to the physical books that I managed in the month of August. So the first one that I finished in August was Throne of the Fallen by Kerry Maniscalco. Now I've already given my thoughts and feelings about this one in my continuing series that I'm in the middle of, episode 2. So if you want to know my thoughts and feelings on this, you can go back and watch that one if you want. all I will say is I absolutely loved it. I love her writing. I love being back in this world, and I cannot wait for the next one. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've seen so many people talk about it, and I've heard nothing but good things. Criminal Minds meets YA. That's exactly what I got. It delivered. I had a good time, and I gave this a 4.75. Didn't quite give me a 5-star feeling, but I gave it 4.75, and I'm really intrigued to continue this series and see where we go with these characters. Definitely would highly recommend. Then I read The Haunting of Aveline Jones by Phil Hicks. This is obviously a middle grade. I didn't really know what to expect from this one, but I have to say I enjoyed it. I had a good time. And I gave it 3.5 stars. It's, if you like spooky and you like kind of autumn Halloweeny vibes, I would definitely recommend. It's not the best thing that I've ever read, but I did enjoy it, and I like our main character, Aveline Jones. There are 2 more in the series, so I want to get to them soon and see what she gets up to next. So that was a lot of fun. The next one I read, I've actually unhauled it already. There's a few actually that I unhauled already. But it was The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This was my first time reading a Simone St. James book. I enjoyed the writing. The story was good. It was an interesting one, and I had a good time. I don't really remember much of what it was about, but again, we had kind of like dual timeline, 2 POVs, and it was like a mystery, like murder mystery type thing. It was good. I had a good time, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Done and Dusted by Lila Sage, and yes, I know I'm late to the party. This was my first experience of a cowboy romance, and I'm disappointed in myself for not picking up cowboy romance sooner, because you all was not lying, okay? This was so much fun. I absolutely loved Emmy and Luke, our main characters, and I really enjoyed the ADHD rep in here as well. And I gave this one a 4.5. Didn't quite give me a 5-star feeling, but I did really enjoy it, and I liked the characters. So I gave it a 4.5, and I'm looking forward to continuing. Then I managed to finally finish The Boys from Biloxi by John Grisham. Now, I started that book back in April. It was actually gifted to me by my husband last December, and I was determined. It took me from April till the end of August to actually finish it, but I was determined to get through it because obviously it was a gift. And that book frustrated. It was my first time reading John Grisham. I probably would not pick up a John Grisham book again. He's just not for me. I can't take away from the fact that the writing was very easily digestible. It was very well written, but the pacing just felt very off, and there just felt like so much information. The book was like 560 pages long, and it felt like the whole point of the book and the whole plot of the book was literally in the last like 150 pages. And I was like, all the rest was like, this is kind of overkill. I understand why he did it. And yes, I did have a much deeper understanding of the characters by the end, and I did feel a little bit more connected to them, but it just dragged on for so long. So I gave that one a 3.5. But I've unhauled it, so that's why I can't show you that. Then I decided to read Night Shift by Annie Crown. I'd seen a lot of people talk about this one, a lot of people enjoy it, but I finally picked it up because I saw Steph from Steph Loves read it, and she absolutely loved it. I had a fantastic time with this one. and I gave it 4.5. Is it amazing? No. Is it entertaining, and is it a good time, and is it a cute little romance? Palette cleanser? Absolutely. So I would recommend it. I had a good time. Then I read The Summer Girl by Jenny Blackhurst. Again, I've already unhauled that one. This was it was a murder mystery about two sisters. Again, it was dual POV, so we had the younger sister's point of view and we had the older sister's point of view. The older sister comes all the way to Martha's Vineyard because her younger sister has gone missing. She was there for the summer, and she comes there to discover what happened to her. The other POV is the younger sister, and it's up until the night of what happened. It's her telling us her side of the story. It was good. I kind of guessed half of what was happening, and it was just okay. And it was quite a short book, so it didn't take me too long to read, and I gave that one 3 stars. Then I decided that I needed to read some more cowboy romance, because obviously Done and Dusted it gave me an itch, and I needed to scratch it, as they say. So I finally picked up Flawless by Elsie Silver. I love this woman's writing. I've read 2 of her books. I'm halfway through another one, and her writing is wonderful. It's fantastic. I absolutely loved this book, and I gave it 5 stars. There's nothing much to say because most of you have read the Chestnut Spring series, so there's no point in me babbling on about it. I loved it. 5 stars. End of. Then I also went on to read Heartless by Elsie Silver, and I love this one even more. And I can't wait to continue the rest of the series. 5 stars. Then I read Honeymoon by James Patterson and Howard Rogan. This has been on my physical TBR and on my shelves for years, and it's just one I've not picked up. And I'm very glad I did. It was fast paced. It was really interesting. We follow a female serial killer in this one, and the FBI agent that is chasing her, and she basically is killing off her husband. She meets someone, she convinces them to marry her, and then she's poisoning them and taking their money. I actually had a good time, and I've given this one 4.5. Really enjoyed it. And then the last physical book and the last book that I read in the month of August was Murder in the Family by Cara Hunter. Again, I didn't know what to expect with this, because again, I've heard good things about it. And I really enjoyed the fact that the book was all mixed media. So if you've not read it, it's like interviews, like text messages, emails, all that kind of stuff. This was an interesting mystery. Didn't completely blow me away, but I had a really good time, and I needed to know what happened. And I thought she did it really well. And I enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 stars. So those are the 19 books that I managed to get to in the month of August. Now, I mentioned at the beginning about my summer TBR. So when I originally set my summer TBR, there was 25 books on my summer TBR. And I can tell you that I managed to read 15 of those books, and there was 10 left. And I think those 10 are here. So I'm actually quite proud of myself that I managed to read that many. And yeah, I had a great month. Let me know in the comments what your favourite book of the month was. or how many 5 stars you had, or whatever. Just talk to me, chat to me. And that's all from me for my wrap up. And I will definitely see you in whatever comes next.